All right, welcome to Football Today, Week 4 Power Rankings of the NFL, where we rank the power that we have. I'm Bobby Skinner here with my co-host Justin Penik, and we're changing it up this week, where we're not doing the cumulative, right? We're not the Oakland Athletics. We're not trying to create an aggregate. We are our own individuals, and we have our own individual power rankings this week. Justin, how are you?
Yeah, instead of the averages, because sometimes it would look a little funky, where sometimes Bobby would have the Chargers a lot higher than I would have the Chargers.
Teams that would lose would go up.
Yeah, so we don't want that. So why not just, and since Bobby, Skinner, and I, we don't really have the time to hop on the phone, like Dalton, Philly and I, we would sit down for like a half an hour, and we would all right, here's our consensus power rankings. Are we willing to bump this team up here? So we're just going to do it. I have my own power rankings, and Bobby has his own. And if you're watching on YouTube, it will be a lot easier to follow. But for our podcast people, Bobby's power rankings will be read by him, and mine will be read by my voice. Bobby Skinner, what fan base are we going to make the most angry this week?
Honestly, I don't see one that is obvious, because I think now that we've hit week 4, we kind of have an idea of where each of these teams is, right? Like the only one I can see, like I moved the Vikings up substantially. Maybe you could say the Commanders again. I have them at 16. I just, maybe Falcons, because I have the Falcons at 18 and the Saints at 12, and the Falcons just beat the Saints and they have the same record. So maybe the Falcons fans would be the most upset with me.
But even do Falcons fans really think the Falcons look like a good football team right now? Like a good football team?
Yeah, no, they don't. Right now, the defense, I really do like their defense, which I know going into this year, everyone was excited about their offense, but I really like their defense now that they, especially once they added Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon, at least gave them one pass rusher. So their defense has consistently played well, but so has the Saints, and I think the Saints offense has a little more ability until we see Kirk Cousins fully healthy, right? Maybe it's Kyle Pitts and not the usage. Their run game hasn't been as good as it should be. So I'm lower on the Falcons than I was going into the year, where I had them as my division winner going in.
Right. Here's what I want to start off with, because this honestly may be where are the Dolphins at with where are Dolphins fans at with the Miami Dolphins?
Oh, they got to be fed up.
They're coming in hot, and they're at number 32 for both of us, and I think that's right for right now. For these are week 5 NFL power rankings. When Tua comes back, which I think he will come back either week 8 or week 9, whenever he's eligible to come back, I think he will come back, and the Dolphins will be better. But I'm sorry. You tell me where you're at with the Dolphins before I kind of go in with. I got to go in on Mike McDaniel for a hot second here, because for all the credit that he gets for being an innovator and for being a good coach, and I do think he is a good coach, just not being able to adjust is crazy. Crazy. So go ahead.
Well, think about their one win. It was against a team that hasn't won a game yet in the Jacksonville Jags. And they, that was a fourth quarter victory, 20-17. Then they scored 10 points versus the Bills with Tua, 3 points versus the Seahawks, and then 12 points versus the Titans without him. And their defense has given up, 31, 24, 31, and then 17 to the Jags. Like they lost talent, right? Guys like Christian Wilkins and Andrew Van Ginkel, and then you have other guys that are dealing with injuries. I think Jalen Phillips left, the game against Tennessee. And then obviously the Tua being the big one. They're just banged up and not very good at all. Like they're bad. They're just awful. Like they just got demolished by a Tennessee Titans team that's really bad.
Nico on Twitter, the Elite Takes guy.
Yeah,
he recently just followed me, and he seems like he's a good dude. He had this tweet. I don't know if he's a Dolphins fan. He might be a Giants fan. I have no clue. He had this tweet about Mike McDaniel, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read it. And this is from Nico at Elite Takes _. He said, I have a lot of problems with Mike McDaniel. His offensive philosophy is one-dimensional. He's not a motivator. He's not a disciplinarian. All right, so all that stuff, if you're a Dolphins fan, like, oh, yeah, he is a leader and the guys like him. So maybe we'll ignore that first paragraph. Here's the real stuff. He is a quarterback-friendly coach, provided you're actually somewhat talented and spend a full offseason acclimating to the system. He's not quarterback-friendly if you need to adjust on the fly with the guy. It's clear he's not Kyle Shanahan for Kevin O'Connell or Matt LaFleur. I'm pretty skeptical, but am I out? Don't think it would be fair to move on yet. Everyone in the building has done pretty good things. Now it's time to reevaluate their approach and adjust. He'll be out if they don't do so. Matt LaFleur, I said it on Football Today, maybe on this show. I think Matt LaFleur, what he did with Malik Willis under center, is just a coaching clinic, and it kind of embarrassed other football teams that, number one, were not ready to play football yet this year. And then number two, but it's just a total clinic on how to take a bad situation, and they literally turned it into a very, very good situation where it's like, we know what we have in this quarterback. We know that we need to run the ball. We're going to put this quarterback in comfortable situations. And even on 3rd and long, you saw Malik Willis completing long passes. So that is an example, and that is a coach that is responding to the situation that is at hand, changing what he's about, and then going forward and then winning. Mike McDaniel does not deserve, as of right now, does not deserve to be in the same sentence. I know the young offensive innovator, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin O'Connell, Matt LaFleur. No, because this is just so bad. They've looked so unprepared to play football. We're just going to do what we're going to do, and we're going to die by that sword.
Yeah, they need to adjust. I think they really needed to adjust in the run game and what they do. It's like you can't like throw all this misdirection and stuff at teams if you're not able to do it in the pass game as well, and they haven't been able to do that. I do want to give some Mike. I mean, he's brought this Dolphins team into the playoffs for the first time, back-to-back seasons in a long time, right? They made the 1 year with Tannehill when he got injured and Matt Moore had to go in. But he's copied around the NFL, but at the same, I understand what the Packers did, but the Packers have an offensive line. That's a really good offensive line. I know the Dolphins' offensive line hasn't been an issue for them, but a lot of it has been coached around. But I still have. Right. I mean, I have them 32nd. I didn't have them as a playoff team coming into the year with Tua, right? With not factoring injuries, and they're just they lost guys on defense, or and some of the other guys haven't stepped up the way they've needed to.
Where are they right now, defensive EPA per play? They're 16th. But still, the teams that they've played, you can't lose to the Titans the way that you did. With the talent that you have on that football team, the investments that you've made, not being able to get the ball to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and no matter the situation, no matter who's under center, I just think that's unacceptable. Can't do it.
Yeah, they've been frustrating. So I have them at 32 as well. You have them at 32?
I'm at 32 for now, until Tua comes back, and Tua will make them look better, and they will win more football games with Tua under center. But as of now, it's still a couple weeks away, and their offense it looks like the worst in football right now. They can't move the ball.
Yeah, it's been pretty brutal.
All right, why don't you go through your bottom 8 teams for me, and then I'll go through mine.
Okay, so at 32, I have those Miami Dolphins. At number 31, I have the team that beat them, the Tennessee Titans. Number 30, I have the Jags. Number 29, the Cleveland Browns. 28, the Las Vegas Raiders. The 27th, the Panthers. Big bump for the Panthers this week after a loss, but I think they're looking a lot better, right? It wasn't just 1 week of Andy Dalton. 26, I have the Broncos. And then 25th, I have the New England Patriots. Where do you want to talk about the Broncos? Or what do you got? Tell me what your list is.
All right, so mine is the Miami Dolphins at 32. The Jaguars are at 31. The Titans just won. They are number 30. The Browns are at 29. The Pats are at 28. The Panthers are at 27. I mean, I think the Panthers now with Andy Dalton, they have a good offensive line. I actually think that they maybe can win a couple games. The Raiders are at 26, the 2-2 Raiders, and the New York Football Giants are at 25. So I have the Broncos at 24. Spoiler alert. And you have them at 26.
Yeah, are you you remember how bad it started last year with them, and then they turned it around, and that defense played really well for them. They ran the offense the way that they needed to while dealing with Russell Wilson as their quarterback. I think we talked about it on Monday. their defense is fun, man. They got like a group of, a rotation of rushers that can really get after it. And they're scheming up stuff. It's just the quarterback. There's just really no hope there for him, right? Like he just doesn't have the arm talent to be a really good NFL quarterback. Right? He has like average at best NFL arm talent. Has looked unpoised, right? And I know people are like, oh, look at what Aaron Rodgers and how many points they scored versus Bo Nix. Go and actually watch the game, and I've never seen a quarterback just flat out miss everything that was past the line. I mean, almost every single pass that was past the line of scrimmage was inaccurate. I don't care how much it was raining. Like that's, you're in the NFL. Like you're gonna have to deal with bad weather sometimes. I don't see any hope for them offensively. Even the touchdown to Cortland Sutton, man, he was wide open. He almost threw him out of the back of the end zone.
But defensively, though.
Yeah, defensively they're very fun, but I don't think I'd view them as a great unit either.
They're third in EPA per play right now. I put them as a top 5 defense so far this year, performance wise. Are they the New England Patriots, where they have an elite head coach, or they have a really good historic great name? Sean Payton's a good head coach. They have a really great head coach. Their defense is awesome, and their offense just can't go anywhere. They may be the New England Patriots.
I think that's where they are. Like they're going to be a defense that's really fun. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to be excited for a quarterback play that is that bad, right? Even Russell Wilson last year, as is like, all right, if you're watching the games, it's not good, but like at least you could get the box score stats to be good, right? We can deliver accurate passes. With Knicks, you're not getting that at all.
In terms of yards per drive, their defense is best in the NFL right now. In terms of points per drive, they're second best. 10th best in plays per drive, so they're forcing a good amount of 3 and outs. They're third in total passing yards allowed. Fifth least amount of passing touchdowns. And if you want to look at total points for, they're third. So this has been a top 5 defense so far this year. Their defense will keep them in games, and I feel like it's very similar talking point to the New England Patriots the last couple of years. Where their defense will keep them in games. They may even win them some games, but the offense is going to be the thing that's to monitor.
Hey, man, and they, like you said, they have been a top 5 defense this year. But is this a defense that like Cleveland's defense last year, where it's like it's so good that no matter how bad the offense is, it's going to lead them to win games. And obviously they've won 2 in a row. Beating the Jets, holding them to 9, and then holding the Bucs to 7. And hell, even the loss to the Steelers, they held them to 13. But do you think this is a defense like Cleveland last year that it's no matter how bad the offense is, they can get you W's and get you in the playoffs? Or are we looking at a 6-7 win team here?
Unless Denver can start running the ball a little bit better and maybe just keep time off the clock and sustain drives. That's the big thing. You have to be able to sustain drives. It's not just about because if you're not going to score a lot of touchdowns. But the run game has been awful, and I was hoping my guy like Jaleel McLaughlin, I was hoping he would pop off a little bit, especially for my fantasy teams, and it just hasn't happened. But even like Jonathan Cooper, 3 sacks, he looked good against the Jets. Nick Benito, 2 sacks.
Zach
these
Allen's
guys
been
aren't
a monster for them too.
Zach Allen's been a monster. He has 10 quarterback hits on the year. That's insane. So I honestly think this pass rush is honestly just warming up, and they have one of the highest blitz rates in the NFL. And you have Pat Surtain that just locked up Garrett Wilson, that has some Jets fans being like, "Oh, is Garrett Wilson have an attitude problem? Is Garrett Wilson okay?" So that's what Pat Surtain's got the conversation happening in New York circles. So
let me ask you this:
is this the Cleveland Browns defense from last year? No, but again, is this defense is that team also won? How many games they won last year? 10, 11 games.
Yeah.
We're talking about a Broncos team that if they win 5, 6 games, we're being like, yeah, it's maybe a little bit better than what we kind of maybe even expected them.
Yeah, because we had them 31 coming into the season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love, because that was one of the first games I watched Monday morning was Jets Broncos, and I was like, man, I kind of love what this defense is doing right now.
Yeah, I agree.
But hey, I think they're going to go 3-2 though. It's
Who do they have?
they play the Raiders. Here's the issue, man. as much as like I'm excited about this defense, you just heard us. It's hard to be like, all right, but Bo Nix is going to go into this matchup and win. That's what's so hard about the Broncos.
It's both teams that want to run the ball and
aren't very good at it.
They're not running the ball, and they have bad quarterbacks, but they have somewhat good defenses. It's ew. That's an ew versus ew game.
Yeah, it's rough.
But it's big for the AFC West though. It's huge. There's 3 teams that are tied for second, and these are 2 of them.
Yeah. What do you want to what else sticks out on your 25 to 32 for you?
I mean, I had the Raiders highlighted just because they won and they're 2-2, but we'll talk about Devontae Adams.
It's all falling apart. That's the thing. It's like that's awesome. It's all falling apart. Like they're gonna have to get rid of Devontae Adams. Like this, and it looks like the Antonio Pierce hiring is a fucking disaster. He's
throwing dudes under the bus.
He's throwing guys under the bus.
You can't be liking Instagram posts.
That's childish. It's childish. That's childish. It's childish to put your players in that position.
Like that doesn't make me want to come to the Las Vegas Raiders and play for Antonio Pierce.
Right.
If he's liking Instagram posts of, whoever the rumor of he may be gone.
Yeah. That's it looks like a mess. That's all I got from it. I mean, the Panthers. I think the Panthers it'd be interesting to see how good the Panthers can actually be, because they obviously beat the Raiders. The first game of Andy Dalton, got in a shootout with the Bengals. How good can the Panthers get up onto this? Can they get to the 2021 spot?
Like they could. That offensive line's good.
Yeah, their investments have paid off. All right, Justin, want to get the next tier?
Let's get the next tier. I'll go first. I have the Broncos at 24. I have the Colts at 23. I have the Cardinals at 22. I have the Rams at 21. The Bears at 20. The Bengals at 19. The Chargers at 18. And the Falcons at 17.
All right. I have the Giants at 24. The Cardinals at 23. The Bengals at 22. Big drop for them from where they started this year. Colts at 21. Rams at 20, Bears at 19, Falcons at 18, Cowboys at 17. So you didn't have the Cowboys in this range, right?
I have the Cowboys at 16, so they're my first team in the upper half of the league.
Where do you I think the Rams, we all know the deal there. They're banged up, they're injured. Stafford's doing some good stuff, but they're a mess. Jared Verse has been awesome for them, by the way, as a rookie.
Yes, he has.
We did the Colts stuff. I guess we can do the Bengals. This was a team that had Super Bowl aspirations, and they just looked flat out bad. They are 1-3. Their only win was a 34-24 victory over the Carolina Panthers. It's awesome that they got to keep a game close with the Chiefs, but again, we're talking about a team that lost to the Commanders, who everyone is very excited about right now. But also, the New England Patriots, who we have in the bottom quartet, and their win was against a team in the bottom quartet. It's just, I think the offense is actually good, but that defense has just been so bad that they're not going to make the playoffs. And you could talk about Lou Anarumo being a big game coordinator. He's not going to be in big games because they're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they're top 3 in points per drive, but they're bottom 5 in points allowed per drive. The story is not their offense. They have some weeks where they get Mike Gesicki involved, which is great. They have some weeks where they get Sidney Brown involved. And then there's this past week, Sidney Brown's brother. Chase Brown on the Bengals, 2 touchdowns this past week, but it was a huge T. Higgins and Jamar Chase show, which that's what we signed up for. They have Yoshi Voss that they can target inside the red zone. He's been a red zone touchdown merchant. So that's awesome. They have answers on offense. That's not the issue. It's just I can't believe that we're at a point where Lou Anarumo a couple years ago was getting head coaching interviews, and I think rightfully so, and he's this big game defensive coordinator that now we're looking at this defense that just has no answers.
They have no pass rush. They have no pass rush outside of Trey Hendrickson, and when you only have one pass rusher, you don't have a pass rush, because it's like, okay, we'll just avoid that, right? We'll avoid that guy. They don't blitz at all either, right? So they're not trying to make up for that with a higher blitz rate. So none of their guys blitz. I mean, Sam
You wanna hear
Hubbard's
a
been
gross
awful
stat?
for them. Osai hasn't been very good. You know, their coverage, which I was excited about going into the year. You know, those guys, you know, haven't lived up to the bill. You know, Cam Taylor-Britt's given up some big plays. He hasn't done enough. Dax Hill has been all right. DJ Turner's played, you know, all right, but they just have no pass rush, and teams are just going to nickel and dime down the field on them.
This is gross. This is a gross stat. So Trey Hendrickson has 3 sacks. Dax Hill has 1. And then there are 2 defensive tackles that have a half a sack. That's it, folks. That's it. It's not good.
Yeah.
They don't have another edge rusher doesn't have even half a sack. Dax Hill's the only non-Trey Hendrickson player
They have
that has
11
a full sack
QB
on the
hits. So
team.
you're like, oh, well, sack, you know, people are like sacks aren't all tell-all. They have 11 QB hits in 4 games. So
And Trey Hendrickson has how many?
They are average, 4 or no, actually only has 3 of them. But so they are averaging 1 sack per game, and 2 times they hit the quarterback per game, basically 2.5.
You're not going to win. You're not going to win like that.
No, and you know, it's Miles Murphy, him getting injured, and you know, I don't know when he's supposed to come back. I thought was a big loss for them as a guy who I thought might have a 2nd-year breakout.
BJ Hill's hurt.
Yeah. They just don't have the pass rush. And I actually, I don't think Lou Anarumo's a fucking idiot either, by the way.
No, he's not. He's not.
So I think, I think this defense by the end of the year may look a lot better. The issue is they're not going to be in the playoffs, though.
Right.
Maybe they beat the Ravens this week, right? You know, it's the NFL, but there's a great chance that they are 1-4, that the Ravens run all over them again.
I can easily see what the Ravens have done the last couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about the Ravens. So I honestly should save this talking point, but they've gotten up big on the Cowboys, and they've gotten up big early on the Bills, and that's been their winning formula since they've gone 0-2. Is Lamar's going to be explosive through the air, and we're going to clobber teams on the ground. You're going to blink, you're going to be down, and then the will is over. You'll fight back. It's the NFL, but. Yeah, that Ravens defense is going to need to show the freak up.
Yep.
For this, because this Ravens, they're going to want to punch you in the mouth in multiple ways, and odds are the Bengals are going to allow them to do it.
Yep. Let's see. So, I guess we could save the Cowboys for the next portion of this. There's nothing. You know, we did the Joe Flacco. How much does he make the Colts? That defense, I still think is pretty bad. Bears are frustrating. They should be better than what they are. They're too talented on all. I understand their offensive line isn't very good, but they're too talented on offense to be the way that they are.
Are you seeing there are now Seahawks fans that are coming out of the woodwork, and maybe not even coming out of the woodwork, because we're not. I'm not on Seahawks Twitter. There's 31 other teams that I'm not on their quote unquote Twitter, but I'm seeing some. The difference between Jackson Smith and Jigba, take him for example. His spray chart this year, his next gen spray chart, how he's being targeted, and the lines, and the yards after the catch, and the further average depth of target, and then seeing what he was doing in Shane Waldron's system, and then seeing DJ Moore, the before and after of his spray charts, and how many across the fields that he would be targeted. And now seeing his spray chart now, and it's just straight down the field short, straight down the field short, straight down the field short. So there's a lot of Seahawks fans being like, see, this is what we've been saying about Shane Waldron. But on the outside, Shane Waldron has kind of had this good reputation helping turn around Geno Smith and shit like that. So I feel like Seahawks fans right now are taking a little bit of a victory lap. And maybe we should have seen this coming. And I'm a little bit concerned about the future, thinking that, it's just going to get better with DJ Moore. But is it a Shane Waldron thing? Lack of creativity of getting your receivers the ball.
Yeah, and don't be wrong, their offensive line is not good. But it's far from this debilitating, cannot play football offensive line either.
Yeah, there's worse out there.
Yeah. So Caleb has actually shown some good growth and stuff, but there's 2 things. One, he cannot hit a deep pass, which is crazy. It's crazy. He has been unbelievably inaccurate on the deep pass. I think he has the second worst completion percentage on it in the NFL. Yep. And the stupid turnovers that have plagued them, right? Like the Colts game, like threw for 350. There was some really awesome stuff on there,
Bad
but
turnovers.
you have the 3 turnovers, and that ends up screwing you. So, the Bears, Bears, I want the Bears to rise up this list, but right now I have them at 19. Where did you have them at?
I have them at 20, so we're on the same wavelength.
Okay. All right. Do you want to do the next tier then?
I do. They're also 5th in defensive EPA per play. So
yeah, their defense is really freaking good. Like really
their defense is going to keep them in games. 100%.
So it's like if that offense can just become an average offense, that's a fun team.
They need to get DJ Moore the ball. Like I know they have other weapons. Oh, but what about this? What about that? What about DeAndre Swift? Blah 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 blah. They DJ Moore will be the engine that will drive them, and that will be the engine that will drive Caleb Williams forward too. Romo Junze is rookie year. He's been fun, but it's going to be DJ Moore that will push this offense forward. They need to get him involved in different ways and more creative ways.
Oh yeah, and he's having
Bobby,
his worst year of his career right now.
Yeah,
like
he's been getting targeted a lot. It's not the issue, but it's just not effective right now. Go look at the spray charts if you're a next gen guy like myself. I haven't fully dived into this. I just saw it on Twitter, but do look at the spray charts of DJ Moore this year, and then maybe even some of the Seahawks receivers last year, and then compare that to like their good years. I'm sure that's a fun exercise. It'll make you feel maybe a little worse. Before we get to the top half of our list, Bobby Skinner, we got to talk about the DraftKings Sportsbook. They sponsor every single week of Power Rankings. They bring you Power Rankings. Bubba Wallace.
Bam.
DraftKings Scar. A chill is in the air. Leaves are falling to the ground, and there's football on every single weekend. That's what fall is all about. My Nebraska Cornhuskers and my Rutgers Scarlet Knights are playing each other this weekend, and it's like my 2 children that are fighting. Like I think I'm rooting for Rutgers because Dylan Raiola is going to be on Nebraska for the next couple of years. I'm betting anytime touchdowns for all the players this weekend because they're all my children and I want them to succeed. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with our partners at the DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet on touchdowns. And that's why I'm betting all the touchdowns in the world this weekend for Rutgers and Scarlet Knights, even though Rutgers has a good defense. Maybe that's a bad bet. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 once they get $200 in bonus bets when you use code FOOTBALLTODAY, all one word. That's $200 in bonus bets instantly. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet on touchdowns. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Right now, new customers use promo code Football Today. Bet just $5 on any wager. Get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code Football Today. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did.
We're glad you did.
Read me your 16 through 9, please.
The Commanders I have at 16. Number 15, I have my Chargers. 14, the Steelers. 13, the Jets. Number 12, the Saints. Number 11, the Eagles. Number 10, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 9, the Seattle Seahawks. And that's where I have to stop talking.
And that's where you have to stop talking. I have the Dallas Cowboys at 16. I think they have a bye week, right?
I do not know.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, they do not. They are playing on Sunday Night Football against the Steelers. That's a fun one.
Ooh, that's a game really right there. One.
Yeah. 16, I have the Cowboys. The Eagles are on a bye. The 15, I have the Jets. The Saints are at 14. The Steelers are at 13. The Commanders are at 12. We both have the Eagles at 11. The Seahawks are at 10, and I have the Packers at 9. The biggest discrepancy that we had this week, Bobby, was you had the Commanders at 16, and I have the Commanders at 12.
Our biggest discrepancy was 4 spots.
Yeah, which I think this is this is the first week. It's starting to settle down. We're starting to get a better read on teams, and I think this is the week that we've been the most in sync.
So, I mean, I'm just like, I have similar talking points. Now, Jaden Daniels, I thought they asked him to do a little bit more last week. He had some throws over the middle. I just feel like that offense is going to get caught up on, and I think they've had bad opponents, one, right? The Cardinals defense we know is awful, right? Like they had all the time in the world to do whatever they wanted because of how bad that pass rush is. The Bengals, right? We just talked about them. Like we've got them in the bottom part of the league because of how bad that defense is. And their offense performed really well in that game. And then the Giants, right? Another bottom quartet team for us. So it's just, I don't think they can keep up what they're doing and their defense is really is like they are a bad defense. They are untalented, bad defense, and I think that's going to catch up with them. So hey, I got them at 16, right? So I've moved them up quite a bit from where I've had them. I'm not buying into the hype after the first 4 games of the year. Like, I think if there's anything we look back at the end of the year and be like, what did we overreact to? And we're like, saying that Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels were going to take over the league. I think Jaden Daniels will probably win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I just think that team and their lack of talent on defense is going to catch up to them.
I mean, he's in the MVP conversation right now. I'm not saying that he should get it if the season ends today, but he's in that conversation. He's getting votes. You want to know what's crazy, Bobby? According to Pro Football Reference, Jaden Daniels has a 14.6% pressure rate. And then according to PFF, 25% of the pressures that he's received, Jaden Daniels shares responsibility for it. I can't believe how good that Commanders' offensive line has been. Oh,
he had all freaking day to throw. Now, again, the Cardinals are a bad sample size. Versus the Bengals, we just talked about how bad their pass rush is.
Yeah, they don't have a pass rush.
The Giants, I know the Giants.
They have good edge rushers,
the Giants
and they
are
have
good
Dexter
on paper,
Lawrence.
But this is where us being Giants fans could speak to it a little more. You chip Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, and you basically eliminate them. But they obviously have Dexter Lawrence in the middle. And then Tampa doesn't have like a great pass rush or even a very good one. But, Tampa did what they did. So, again, that's like that is part of why I have them at 16. And I'm not like, jumping for joy, being like, this is a top 10 team in the NFL, paired with their defense. I'm not overreacting to this. I know it's everyone wants to in the moment, and it's like, oh, you're just hating, but I'm not overreacting to this Commanders' first 4 games.
I want to let it ride. I think that's where I'm at with it. Where it's like there's every reason to be pessimistic about it because they're starting
have fun with it. But
that's I'm letting it ride.
Yeah.
And especially as Jaden Daniels has, if we're still throwing screens like left and right like we were against the Giants in week 1 and week 2, if we're still Cam Taylor-Britt, this high school college offense, came back to bite him in the ass, but he's kind of right. We're not doing that anymore. Like there's deep throws down the field. It's some of the juice that you saw Jaden Daniels at LSU. That's kind of like what we're seeing over the last 2 weeks.
Are they though? I mean, he's completed 3 passes to 20+ yards down the field this year.
One or two of them have gone for touchdowns.
Yeah,
right?
Don't get me wrong. And hey, that's something I love about Jaden Daniels' game, right? That third down against the Bengals to win the game, to seal the game. That throws money. I've seen him make that throw. That's why he was my number 3 QB in the NFL, is the ability to place that ball downfield paired with the leg. So I'm happy with Jaden Daniels. Yeah. I don't want this to come off as like I'm not saying that I'm not as high on them because it's Jaden Daniels. I don't believe in him. It's just there's so many other components that I'm not buying the hype. I'm not believing this offensive line is turned around. I'm not believing Cliff Kingsbury, who's known for some hot starts, is this great innovative offensive play caller. I'm not, a team that isn't pushing the ball down the field at all, and I think that defense is really bad. I'm not. So it's not about Jaden Daniels to me. It's more about the rest of the team. If like let's say he was doing what he's doing on the Bears, they're a top 10 team. Like if he was on the Chicago Bears and he's doing what he's doing, top 10.
I also think what the Bears are asking Caleb Williams to do and what the Commanders are asking Jaden Daniels to do are 2 very different things.
They are, but at the same time, like we've criticized Shane Waldron, like where's the easy buttons for Caleb Williams, and they haven't put any on there, right? Like if you got a 10-year pro, that's okay.
Caleb's been good with the easy stuff.
Yeah, so I think they're handling Jaden Daniels the way they are, but they're also throwing 30% of their throws behind the line of scrimmage. And then another 40% are below 10 yards.
So they have the Browns this weekend, and the Browns are probably a little worse than what they were last year, especially because they're really banged up.
Their offense is awful. Their defense is not performing at the same way as last year, So
this is another litmus test for Jaden Daniels, which I don't think
it's a litmus test for the offensive line. If Jaden Daniels doesn't play well, I'm not going on this fucking C. But to me, all right, let's see this offensive line perform against these guys because these guys can get after you.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about I mean the Cowboys were mentioned because I have them 16, even though you had them 17th. The Jets are on here.
I want to talk about the Cowboys.
The Steelers are on here, and I'm listing these teams for a very specific reason. Davante Adams is going to be traded from the Las Vegas Raiders, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So I just mentioned like the Cowboys are monitoring the situation because they monitor everything, even though they're probably not going to do shit.
I also think that's a little Yankees in baseball. Like, let's say the Cowboys might be in it just to get people more interested. Click on our story.
Right. I think he's going to be a New York Jet. I think the Jets have to pull this trigger. So the Jets, you have the Jets ranked 13th. I have them ranked 15th. We talked a lot about them on Monday's show. A little disappointed in Breece Hall not progressing. We talked about the cadence thing and the offense. The Broncos' defensive line absolutely ate up that offensive line. Do you want to talk about Davante Adams and how he's going to be a New York Jet?
I'm excited for that. Right, like the Jets are the one team that should flat out do this because they are in this win now mode, and Davante Adams' contract is not one that most teams are going to want to trade for mid-season when you can't move your cap around as much. The Jets should do this. It gives them I know Allen Lazard's technically their leading receiver, but that to me is an indictment. Like they don't really have a second option. Like I don't trust Lazard. And hey, if
Lazard has more than Garrett Wilson,
he has more receiving yards than Garrett Wilson.
Come on, man!
And it allows Garrett Wilson to face a little more number 2 coverage and not let teams focus in on him as much. Like this really does help them because of how much him and Rodgers are on the same page. Like that's a hard offense to account for. Now I still have worries about that run game if they can get that going, but I think their defense is still pretty good. It's not as good as it was last year, but the defense is still pretty good. I think these Jets can figure it out. I just think I just don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl. But I think the Jets will figure it out as the year goes on.
No, and it's a shame because the Jets should be a football team that we don't even talk about once this week, outside of Davante Adams being traded. The Jets game should have been the last game that we talked about on Monday's show, or maybe not even a game that we touch on at all. Because they should have just fucking beat the Broncos. But this is just who the Jets are. And this is what the Jets are. And this is if you're a fan of the Jets, this is nothing new for you. This is the experience. And who texted this to me? The Jets could have God playing quarterback. And it was, I think, one of my buddies. The Jets could have God playing at quarterback, and they could lose games like that. And it's like, yeah, that's true, because that's just who they are. So get Davante Adams, go all in, get better as the year goes on because they barely practiced and they barely did anything this summer anyway. So get better. And I don't know, Hassan Reddick is also dead.
Also, someone,
which is crazy.
Where is Hassan Reddick? Is that ever going to be fixed? Also, Robert Saleh, stop being emotional in press conferences because that's how you get picked up nationally and made fun of. Right? If you give the non-answers, your fan base is going to be like, doesn't say anything, he doesn't care, whatever. But you're going to get picked up nationally when you talk to them. Also, Jets reporters, let's not take Garrett Wilson's words completely out of context to make them look bad. Did you see that yesterday? Like that Garrett Wilson on radio where he's like, we don't really do much, we don't change much. Bart Scott had framed that as like, the good teams have an identity, but you see like a bunch of teams where they're trying to change up stuff all the time. So Garrett Wilson was just saying, no, we're not one of those bad teams that tries to do that. And Rich Cimini took it completely out of context to make it seem like, our offense. Now their offense does. Their offensive coordinator does.
Rich Cimini hinted at like, oh wow, the Jets offense was doing things last year that we're not doing this year. I'm like, are we really? I'm like, did Garrett Wilson really go on radio and hint at that the offense last year was more advanced and better than what they're doing this year? I kind of doubt
that's unbelievable. I guess unbelievably out of context. I couldn't believe it when I actually heard the clip how out of context that is. Right, like 99% when a fan base is like the media, they're putting, they're just trying to do stuff. They're wrong. The 1% is shit like that.
Yeah. All right.
Let's get to our top 8. Ain't that great?
Let's get to our top 8. I mean,
let's talk about the Cowboys.
Okay, let's talk about the Cowboys.
I don't think they have enough good players to be a good team. And like they're a CeeDee Lamb or bust offense. teams are going to start doubling him a lot more. They already do double him quite a bit. But, like, none of their other receivers can win. Their run game is awful. And, like, just playing guys like Amani Aurier at corner.
And Micah Parsons I think he's out for the Steelers.
And their pass, like, their run defense, it played well against the Giants, but, like, their run defense has been, like, I just don't think they're a talented enough team to, like, forget all the Dak playoff shit. Let's say that never happened. I don't think they're a talented enough team to be a contender.
And who could have seen this coming? This is what everybody was talking about all offseason, is that they didn't do anything to get better. And they went with the whole, our guys in the building, they got to prove what they're worth. And isn't it funny how the NFL works is there are going to be things that go wrong for you. You know, Micah Parsons maybe isn't totally Superman, and he's not going to play 17 games, and maybe you're going to miss him for a couple games here. Then what are you going to do? Who could have seen this coming? The one team in the NFL that was like everybody could shake hands on, NFL media could shake hands on and say, you know what, who deserves the award of didn't get better this offseason, but maybe necessarily didn't? No, they did get worse.
They lost Tyron Smith. They lost their pass rush depth.
They flat out did not get better this offseason. The award winner of that this offseason was the Dallas Cowboys. And I think now you're seeing it.
Yeah.
You're seeing a worse product.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, 8 through 1. Let's get to it.
8 through 1. I will go first. I have our Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 8. I do want to touch on the Seahawks and Lions game too, because you had them at 10. I had them at 10. You had them at 9. That's usually when we recap Monday Night Football on this show. I have the Bucs at 8. I have the 49ers at 7. I have the Ravens at 6. I have the Texans at 5. I have the Vikings at 4. The Lions at 3. The Bills at 2. And the Chiefs are at 1.
So you want to talk about the Seahawks?
Yes. Yeah, let's talk about the Seahawks-Lions game just kind of overall.
Well, you feel great about the Lions, obviously. Maybe not their defense.
They kick ass, man.
Actually, you know what? I'm like # worried about their defense.
It should be better.
They play man covers, they blitz, and as much again, I've said this line way too many times this year. It's like, yes, did they upgrade their secondary? Absolutely. It's not a great secondary though.
I want to see where they are in blitz rate. Oh, remember this stat that I shared with you this offseason? The Lions are much better when they only rush 4. They have they have top 10 numbers when they only rush 4 and when they don't blitz. When they bring 5 or more, they have terrible numbers. Their secondary is horrible. Their pass defense is horrible when they bring 5 or more. And they have the 5th highest blitz rate in the National Football League right now at 32%.
Yeah, and they have a guy who, when you just rush 4, like what Aiden Hutchinson is doing right now is insane.
He's killing.
It's unbelievable.
He's killing.
Right? Like he's on pace to have one of the best pass rushing seasons of all time. He actually is on pace to have the best pass rush season of all time. You know, obviously that'll probably even out a little bit, but like it's a great year for him. They don't really have any pass rush outside of him though. And their corners are capable of making really good plays, and they're also very capable of giving up big plays. You know, Carlton Davis has given up 313 yards. Terrion Arnold's had 8 penalties this year. Davis has had a bunch too. You know, and Arnold's penalties have been really consequential for them. So it's like their secondary is better. I love the way Brian Branch is playing for them. Amik Robertson's playing. So they've improved, but it's still, like you said, the Seahawks threw all over them.
There's just space. There's a lot of space.
Yeah, it's like if you got a receiver matchup, like if you got a good receivers, they're going to be in man coverage. They're going to blitz. Throw it to your receivers. Like I know that sounds really simple now that I said it out loud, but like it's kind of that simple. Like they're a very simple defense. Now offensively, they are getting. If they were a little out of whack to start this season, they are freaking in line now, right? You know, Jared Goff doesn't have a single incompletion. You know, getting Amon-Ra the ball, the run game being dominant, and what have we said? Don't throw the ball to Jameson Williams 9 times per game. Throw it to him 4 or 5, and let's make those count. And that's exactly what they did on Monday night. Now they didn't throw the ball a ton of times anyways in that game, but like I'm so back in on them. Like I was tempted to put them at number 1. but it's just the defense I don't think is good enough to put them at number 1 right now.
Yeah, I put them. Well, we both had them at 3. So yeah, I think that's where they belong right now because that defense has some questions, and it feels like I'm just watching some Lions games that we've watched the last 3 years, and that's kind of the issue. That's the difference between where the Lions were and kind of where they need to be. Is that defense needs to be just flat out better. We know that offense is good. We know that offense kicks ass. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I will apologize. Did I have the Dolphins as the best running back room in the NFL for the season?
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. It's Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and it's not close. The contact balance, the explosiveness that both of them give you, but really, particularly Jahmyr Gibbs, because you just watch them, right? And they're on the same team with that offensive line. So it's not even like you have top 10 running backs and one of them's in Chicago or or in New England with a bad offensive line. They're both on this team, on the same team, with a really good offensive line. You have the lightning, and the wind of Jahmyr Gibbs, and then you have the thunder of David Montgomery.
Yeah, they're just like unbelievable as a rushing team. They're not rushing it like crazy either, but they're just so good when they do. And again, a lot of teams
are in shootouts a lot.
Yeah. And then Goff is playing really good football as well. Again, Jameson Williams, again, this is what we wanted for him. He has 2 targets. He takes one of those for a 70-yard touchdown. Now, the Seahawks, I will say, their defense is better than what it looked like on Monday night. They were missing their entire starting D-line. I had no clue of that going into the game. And then it's like, yep, they have it. Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Boye Mafe, and Uchenna Nwosu out. And I was like, oh, well, this changes things a little bit for them. So I think the Seahawks defense isn't as bad as the Monday night showing looked. Now, they also played 3 really bad offenses to start the season, so you can't say they're that good. But I think the Seahawks are – I really like the Seahawks. I had them at 9, so – but I'm all the way back in the Lions.
You have to love them.
Here, let me ask you this sorry, go ahead.
No, but I even think offensively you have to love the Seahawks too. I know the Lions, hey, they don't have great defense, but they're getting DK Metcalf the ball. DK Metcalf is a fucking monster this year. JSN's route tree looks a lot better, and his spray chart looks a lot better. Tyler Lockett is still Tyler Lockett. Gino's doing a good job of facilitating and getting rid of the ball. And see John Gruden. John Gruden got a little mad because he has this little bit of a conspiracy theory. Because you have the offense coordinator came from Washington. So I heard a clip where John Gruden got a little mad that the Seahawks players before the snap maybe looking towards the sideline, and the Seahawks coaches maybe giving signs of what they think the defense is going to do or what the defense is in. And he's like, I hate that because he's more of the old school guy of identify it yourself probably. So John Gruden got mad, and I enjoyed it.
Now I hate the Seahawks because John Gruden hates it.
Thinks that they're cheating.
I didn't give my top 8. I have the Bucks at 8, as same as you. I have the Packers at 7, the 49ers at 6, Texans at 5, Vikings at 4. The Vikings have showed it. The Lions at 3, the Bills 2, Chiefs 1. Okay, let's ask this. Lions-Vikings play tomorrow. Who are you picking to win that game?
And it's actually funny. During Monday night's game, I had a tweet. I think they play each other week 7, so we don't have to look that much further down the road for it. But I had a tweet of the WWE promotional video of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena, the commercial of them fighting each other and wrestling. And it's that's Brian Johnson versus Brian Flores, week 7 of this year's season. So who wins? Right now I lean Lions just because they're more talented. And I think that they could just kick ass. And I think when you get down to I think it comes down to Jimmy's and Joe's sooner or later when you talk about these good teams, and the Lions just have better Jimmy's and Joe's than the Vikings do at this point. Is that a wrong way to look at it?
No, but they if we're going coach for coach, right? I actually would take O'Connell over Ben Johnson. Often, not talking, head coaches with Campbell, and then defensive coaching. I would much rather take Flores. So I feel like that's one way you could look at it is they have the coaching advantage. Now they lost to the Lions twice last year, but they had Nick Mullins at quarterback, and they kept those games kind of tight. I might pick the Vikings right now, but I agree. I think teams haven't been able to really run on Minnesota much. For some reason, Green Bay got away from that, and that was frustrating because I thought they would lean into that a little bit, even though the Vikings' run defense is good. I do think the Lions could get that going. It's just about keeping Goff unpressured in those situations. But I would go Lions too, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to have those teams 3 and 4 right now.
No, yeah, I'm not 100% certain on it either. Because you can easily see that even that Vikings offense and Kevin O'Connell just picking apart that Lions defense easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think they had 400 passing yards in both those games last year or something.
Sam Darnold, if you want to be aggressive, I'm sorry I cut you off, but if you Sam Darnold, Jordan Addison, and Justin Jefferson, they will make you pay if you want to bring pressure. They'll make you pay down the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else from this tier?
No, we're not concerned that the Bills lost.
No, but you kind of had to get the Chiefs, give them the benefit of the doubt at 4-0, even though they don't look beautiful, but they're 4-0, the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions, and I think they're going to be all right.
I said the Bills.
Well, I'm saying that's why I put the Chiefs above the Bills.
Okay.
I flipped them back to number 1. Got it. Because Bills lost, Chiefs won. So, but no, I have zero concerns about the Bills from that Ravens game. Yeah, I don't. We didn't really talk. I put the Ravens at 10. Here's the thing with the Ravens. I love what they've done the last 2 weeks, run the ball. When it gets down to it, you're going to have to throw the ball more than 15 times per game.
Yeah, and you're not going to be up 21. You're not going to be up by 2-3 scores at halftime every single week.
Right, and I mean, again, Lamar's thrown the ball 31 times the last 2 weeks. It's worked. It's been extremely efficient. But they're going to need to be able to drop back and throw, and I just don't trust that offensive line until they prove it. And it's not like they're loaded with weapons on the outside. It's Zay Flowers, and then you have your tight ends.
Right. I lied. The Commanders I have at 12. You have the Commanders at 16. You have the Ravens at 10. I have the Ravens at 6. So we're tied. The Ravens and the Commanders, the battle for Maryland, they're tied for four spots apart. That's our biggest difference of the week. And lo and behold, I thought they played each other. Never mind. I thought the Commanders and the Ravens played each other this week.
Not this week, but they do play each other.
So the battle for the DMV will commence. There's a short on this channel that's doing well right now.
You know that DMV is home of the Glizzies? That's where that started.
Really?
Besides us, we got it really going, me and you, on Talking Giants.
Delaware, Maryland, Virginia?
Yep. The Department of Motor Vehicles.
Are you when you say DMV, did the Glizzies start at the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, or Delaware, Maryland, Virginia?
Delaware, Maryland. I remember when we had that big viral tweet from Talking Giants about Glizzies, and DMV's like, "You guys didn't start this."
Oh.
Yes, we did.
But the Commanders, I am aware. Like we had a short that's doing well on this channel. The Commanders play in Maryland, right? They don't play in DC.
Yeah, Landover, Maryland.
And DC's not a state. So there are 2 teams in Maryland that have a football team, and that is the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington Commanders. Because a lot of people are like, the Commanders don't play in Maryland. Their stadium is in Landover, Maryland.
So people are not only wrong, they're being like they're saying you're wrong.
Yes, which is very annoying. Very annoying.
Yeah, it's extremely annoying.
They play in DC, and DC's not a state.
It's one thing to be wrong about an opinion. It's a very annoying when you're like wrong about a fact. Hey, you may think the Eagles don't belong at 11 power rankings, right? But you can respect that as an opinion. But they do play in Pennsylvania. You can't argue that.
And I hope you respect our opinions, or you can call us fucking idiots in the comments.
Here's what I'm excited for is that I don't have to be called an idiot for your takes.
Oh, sure.
Now it's only for my own. I'm fine with that.
All right, cool. All right, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll be back next week with our Power Rankings brought to you by DraftKings, and then also we'll be back on Friday for a Week 5 preview and a Thursday Night Football recap. Peace. Or you end these. Why am I ending this?
Yeah, we'll see you then. Until then, this is Football Today.